welcome to another video, and you can see the background's getting together. I'm starting to like the look of it with the shirts being hung up differently. I've tried to go with URC shirts because we're covering URC today, but I know you don't really care about that, you're only here for the discussion. And what am I discussing? The race for the 8. If you don't know, the URC have coined this term because there's 8 teams. 8. Is it 8? No, I've got 7 teams down, all fighting for 4 spots for that top 8. So yeah, and now I'm not going to make a prediction or anything, but I'm just going to give you the teams, where they're sitting and what the remaining 4 games are. As you know, there's 3 points separating them, which is really nothing. You know, that's 1 win. It's less than a win. But you look at the fixtures, and maybe there's some teams who you'd favour their run-in more than others. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. This should be quite a good video. And yeah, so let's start off with the team in 5th. This is the first one. This is Benetton. Now, Benetton are a little bit ahead of everyone. They're sitting on 42 points. They are 9 out of 14. Now, roughly in the last couple of seasons of the URC, the first couple of seasons, it was about 50. I think first season it was 50. Last year it was about 48, I believe, was safe. So yeah, about 50. And I don't know what my hair is doing. But yeah, figure it'll be about 50 to keep you safe. So Benetton, they're about 2 wins away. They have won 9 of their 14 games, and that's quite important, as again, it's usually about 10 wins gets you through. So, you know, maybe they only need to win 1 more. That'll obviously have to wait for the results. But then we'll look at their run-in, and Benetton's run-in is really, really rough. So, round 15, next weekend, they've got Ulster away. Then they go on their South African tour for round 16 and 17, going away to Sharks and Bulls, which, you know, South African teams away are never easy games. And they wrap it up with Edinburgh at home. So a fellow team that, spoiler, is in this race, who is one of, probably I want to say, one of the more favoured teams to prevail in this race. So, you know, Benetton have got 4 tough games. So even though they've got a little lead, you know, they've got 2 points ahead of everyone else, or 3 ahead of some, those games, you can see them walking away with no wins from them. Now, I do think they'll probably win one of them. I can see them beating Edinburgh in Italy. Maybe a win against Ulster as well, as Ulster a bit of a flip-flop. But I think that's a really tough run-in for Benetton. Again, I'm not going to make my predictions or anything, but I'm just giving you the information. Next up, the next team, we've got Stormers. The South African team are on 40 points with 8 wins from 14. So again, 2 wins probably needed. This will be a theme, I reckon, is that if any of these teams win 2, especially if they pick up a bonus point or 2, I reckon they'll be okay. And Stormers, they have a few slightly easier games-ish. So for Stormers, they are at home to Leinster, away to Dragons, away to Connacht, and then they wrap up at home to the Lions. Now, Leinster at home, if that Lions game last week tells us anything, Leinster don't really care on their South African tour. They might now, they've got Glasgow right on their tail, but you know, who knows. Dragons away, it's in Europe, which, you know, the South African teams don't always do well in, but Dragons are one of the weaker teams. I think they're sitting second bottom. Connacht away, again, that'll be a tough game. Connacht are one of the teams in this race. Again, it's away, it's in Ireland, that's going to be a tough game for them. And then they wrap up with Lions at home, again, another team that's in this race, who will, you know, it might be a must-win game. Who knows at that point? There's 3 games between now and then, so that, you know, again, a few tough games for Stormers. Without making too many predictions, I reckon they'll at least pick up 2 wins in that. From that, I reckon Stormers will be fine. But, you know, for now they're still in this race. Next up is a team that maybe some people didn't quite expect to be here at this stage, and that is Ospreys. They got a massively impressive win against the Stormers last week, and now they are away to Bulls in the first round. They are also on 40 points with 8 out of 14. They're behind Stormers on points difference. So as I said, the first game's away to Bulls. That's going to be an equally tough game. And then they are away to Leinster, and then away to Dragons, and then away to Cardiff. So Ospreys have got 4 away games to finish them off. Unless I've read that wrong. But that's tough. That's tough. None of them are easy places to go. Bulls and Leinster away. Name one team that has one away to either of them. Munster. No mind. Anyway, so Bulls and Leinster tough, and then they're away to Dragons and Cardiff, which are Welsh derbies, which who knows in them. Welsh derbies you can never really predict. So quite a tough run-in for Ospreys, although they are showing signs to be doing pretty good. That was a massive win over the Stormers. They've managed to crawl back in. They were an outside shot going in about the Six Nations, but the last few game weeks they've managed to pick up some decent results and slowly climb back into this race, and they're now sitting 7th in the table, and then sitting in 8th in the table. So the last team that would be in the playoffs if it ended now is Edinburgh. They are on 39 points with 9 wins from 14. So what that tells us is Edinburgh struggle to pick up bonus points. They don't win by much when they do win, and they lose by quite a bit when they do lose, which you look at the results, that's probably about fair. They picked up a big win against Scarlets though last week, or last game week, so they'll be hoping to continue that form, but they've got a few tough games coming up as well. So next week they're away to Cardiff, then they're at home to Zebra, then they're at home to Munster, and then to wrap up they're away to Benetton. So some tough games in there. Cardiff away, Cardiff I think should have beaten Ulster. I think everyone will agree there, that Cardiff should have beaten Ulster at the Kingspan. Now Edinburgh did beat Ulster at the Kingspan, to be fair, but Cardiff can pull off some big results. I know they've not been that great this season, but they can still. Home to Zebra. Now you would expect them to win that and probably get a decent win there, but Zebra are one of those teams that can just turn up and you can struggle there. Munster at home, Munster versus Edinburgh is always a good game, so who knows there. And then again away to Benetton last game week, it could be a must win game, so who knows. So yeah, that is Edinburgh. Moving on to 10th, so the first team that's not officially in the top 8 at the minute, but they are on 39 points, but behind Edinburgh because they've got 8 out of 14 wins. That is Connacht. Connacht have a few tough games to come. Their next game is away to Dragons, then they're away to Munster, then they're at home to Stormers, and then they're away to Leinster. So some absolute corker games in there for Connacht. Who knows? I know I'm saying that for a lot, but the URC this season, you just cannot predict half the games. I'm surprised to do as well as I do in my predictions, because there's some, if I was sitting right down, 3 of those games look tough for Connacht. Dragons, but without showing much disrespect to Dragons, they can still pull off some decent showings and some decent goings for the Welsh side. And then they've got 2 away games against fellow Irish teams, again predicting Irish derby, and at home at Stormers. Why does my hair make me look like a blooming horn, deer or something? I don't know, it's quite funny. Anyway, so that's Connacht. That's tough. That's a tough run in. Next up we've got Ulster. They're also on 39 points on 8 out of 14, and again they're behind Connacht on points difference. So their running's not that horrible. A few tough games though. They are at home to Benetton, then they're away to Scarlets, at home to Leinster, and then away to Munster. So actually some really tough games in there. Benetton at home. As I say, Benetton's in this race. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be impossible to predict. Ulster want a big reaction after that fairly embarrassing game that they should have lost to Cardiff. Away to Scarlets, who haven't been too hot this season. And then don't need to say much about Munster and Leinster. Do I really need to? About how tough those games will be. Ulster, though, they have already beat Leinster this season, so there is the possibility that they do it again, and Munster, again, are prone to slip-ups, so you never know. And then the last team I've put on here is the Lions. They are on 39 points as well, but only with 7 wins, so when they win big, but they don't win as often. Well, they've won one less game, so it's still pretty similar. And their run-in is incredibly tough. They've got Munster at home, Cardiff at home, Glasgow at home, and then Stormers away. That's tough. I mean, I know they just got their absolute monumental win against Leinster, but I think that speaks more about Leinster just not turning up more than Lions. I mean, Lions did play well, but I think that's more that, you know, Leinster didn't quite firing. They set out a weaker team. There's so many excuses you could go through for Leinster. It was a big win for Lions. Cardiff at home, again, as I've said several times, Cardiff are one of those teams that can just turn up and play really well. Glasgow at home, yeah, second in the table. They're like 1 point behind Leinster for top spot. Glasgow are, I'd probably argue Glasgow are the most informed team in the league at the minute. And then Stormers away, again, really tough game there. So yeah, that is kind of the information on the race for the 8. Those are the teams that are in it. That's the run-ins. Let me know who you think's going to do well. I know I said I wouldn't do a prediction, but the 4 teams I can see getting in, I think Edinburgh will get in, I think Stormers will get in, I reckon Ospreys, and I think Benetton will edge it. If I had to pick, probably the 4. Did I just say the 4 teams that are already in? I think I did, but just by looking at the run-ins, they seem like the best suited. Especially because so many teams are playing each other, you know. So there's some absolute monumental games, you know. Next game week, look out for the main one to look out for is the Benetton Ulster. That's going to be an absolutely massive game. And then a couple of other teams have tough games. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think of the new setup. I'm still playing about with it. But yeah, thank you very much, and I shall see you absolute legends later.